welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 30th December live cast from Australian Indian Radio, and it's wonderful to have your company on this beautiful day. 22 degrees and mostly cloudy today. Well, right now we will go and have a look at what's making news. And as we know, with that announcement yesterday of the scrapping of the laws regarding that 5-day test, here's a report on that. Let's find out what exactly is happening with that. So Queensland's moved of using rapid antigen test for interstate travellers from January 1st will rely on a honesty system. Chief Health Officer Dr. John Gerard said travellers will be required to fill an online declaration that had performed a rapid antigen test and retained a negative result within 72 hours of the travel. Dr. Gerard said he would refer the specifics to the Queensland Police Commissioner, but making a false declaration, we all know, is a crime. Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk confirmed the change in the morning, saying people seeking to enter Queensland from a domestic COVID-19 hotspot will need a negative rapid antigen test to cross the border rather than a PCR test. The decision comes after days of wrangling between states as New South Wales blamed long delays in testing queues and results on holiday travellers. Ms. Palaszczuk had earlier said her government would look to ease the PCR test requirements in the new year. It comes as health authorities hope for shorter testing queues amid fears that people are catching the virus while waiting in the line. Now that could be very, very shocking news as well. The state yesterday scrapped the requirement for visitors and returnees to get a PCR test on the 5th day after their arrival, after recording more than 1,000 daily cases on the first time. Queensland recorded 1,589 new cases of COVID-19. This follows 1,158 new infections the day before. Health Minister Yvette Dart says few were coming from the 5-day test. Anybody who is waiting in lines now for their 5-day test kit, they will not be required to get them, she said. Visitors to the state will still have to tick the box on the entry form that says they will get the day 5 test until the website is updated, but they won't be held to that commitment. It's feared that the long queues for the PCR test are jeopardizing people's health, with vulnerable individuals lining up near people with COVID-19 symptoms. But Health Minister Yvette Dart has previously said there were strong protocols in place to help prevent potential spread. Today is the first day back from the public holiday break, meaning more clinics will be open for longer, and with the hopes it will shorten the wait times. Despite rising case numbers in Queensland, the state's hospitalisation figures remain low, with just 6 people needing treatment for COVID-19. So there you are, up to date, and we hope that as time passes, this will all be under control. Well, right now, moving on, coming back to the normal news in here, let's take a look at what's making news nationally.
It is poised to change the course of Australia's response to take the COVID crisis. With a major shift in quarantine rules to be the focus of today's meeting, leaders will try to nut out a nationally consistent definition of a close contact in a bid to stem the growing list of people forced into isolation as a precaution. The meeting will also try to find common ground on testing requirements as the PCR testing system buckles and rapid antigen tests are in short supply. Meantime, one of the country's main pathology providers, Foresight, has told the ABC it warned state governments in Victoria and Queensland 3 weeks ago of a perfect storm that would be created by the need to test for travel as COVID cases rose. The company says staff have worked non-stop for the last 3 weeks, including the public holidays, in an attempt to help people with their holiday plans and celebrations. The World Health Organization is warning that a huge wave of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 is straining global health services. Almost 2 years after China notified the organization about a new illness in Wuhan, the WHO's Director General says Delta and Omicron are now twin threats, driving up cases to record numbers, leading to spikes in hospitalisation and deaths. Darwin residents have been woken up overnight after an earthquake shook the city. The magnitude 7.3 quake struck the Barat Daya Islands in Indonesia at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Bureau of Meteorology says there is no tsunami threat.
Those are the cases and the numbers. Well, right now, because of what's happening nationally, Prime Minister today is calling for a new definition of COVID-19.
The recommended definition, which is being considered by the medical expert panel and will be tomorrow presented, as we asked last week, to the National Cabinet by the Chief Medical Officer, is a definition of a close contact, which is a household contact or a household-like, another accommodation type setting, of a confirmed case only. A household contact is someone who lives with in a care setting and has spent more than 4 hours with them in a house accommodation or care facility setting. So we're talking about someone that they're living with. We're talking about someone like me and my family here who are living here together. If one of my kids, Abby or Lily, got it, or if, of course, Jenny got it, or any of the household staff here got it, then we would find ourselves in that situation and I would be a close contact. If I went down to a restaurant down the road and I happened to pop in and get some takeaway and there was a case there, I would not be a close contact. I would not then have to isolate for the arrangement sitting under a close contact. Now, what's important with this definition is to try and understand that you're dealing with a high volume of cases and we just can't have everybody just being taken out of circulation because they just happen to be at a particular place at a particular time. The uncertainty of that, the impacts on the economy, and particularly given the fact that we are not seeing this impact on our hospital system, means that it's an impractical way to live with the virus in this next phase.
And of course, in that next phase, so we're talking about that. And now the next report is about my lead-in story, which I mentioned before, that Queensland has dropped the 5-day travel requirement with that PCR testing.
So the Queensland government has officially abandoned its policy of requiring negative PCR tests for people travelling into the state. It comes as the state records a new high in daily cases. With more, Emily Gramenz, our reporter, joins me from Brisbane. Emily, so take us through the numbers for today.
Well, Joe, Queensland's recorded 1,589 new COVID cases overnight. Now, as you mentioned, these are pretty small fry figures compared to what other states are recording at the moment as the Omicron wave takes hold. But here in Queensland, we are still getting used to those numbers, and that is a new daily case record, as is expected to be basically every update from here on in. Now, what we know basically about these numbers, they're spread all across the state, even in quite rural and remote areas. One case reported overnight is on Thursday Island in the Torres Strait. That's the first case up there in that region since sort of the borders were reopened. We know that there are a number of people in hospital, but not all of them are actually sick. Some are being managed there because they've got pre-existing conditions or other reasons. The Chief Health Officer indicated there are only a handful of people who are sick with symptoms in hospital. Many, many more are being managed at home. And at the moment, there are no cases in intensive care in Queensland. And that's the sort of metric that the Chief Health Officer here wants us to focus on as the daily case numbers continue to climb. Here's what he said earlier today.
We still have no cases in our intensive care units, which clearly indicates that the vaccines are working. but I would encourage anyone who is eligible to go and get their third dose if it's been 5 months since their second dose. It's critical that people go ahead and get their third dose.
And Emily, what's happening with the the testing requirements for getting into Queensland?
Well, Joe, this is quite a major change in policy. The Queensland Government has today announced that from January 1, they will no longer require a negative PCR test for travellers who are coming into the state from an interstate hotspot. Now, we've seen those huge testing queues across the country as people line up, whether they've got symptoms, whether they're a close or a casual contact, or in many cases, people who need a negative result in order to travel. So the Queensland Government has said from January 1, they will accept rapid antigen test results, negative of course. People still need to have that test within 72 hours, although authorities have said today preferably within 24 hours of travel or on the day of travel, and that will be sufficient to gain entry into the state. Now, Queensland authorities have said they're led to believe that rapid antigen tests are available in places like New South Wales, where obviously the case numbers are very, very high compared to other states, although they did acknowledge they're very hard to come by in Queensland at the moment. So this will be welcome relief for many people who want to travel to Queensland, but certainly it could still be stressful trying to get your hands on one of those tests.
Okay, Emily Gramen's reporting there from Brisbane.
Very much very confident reporting there by Emily. Of course, I'd like to welcome Michael, David, Cousin, Devika and others who have just joined in. Wonderful to have your company this morning. Now, we were talking about the rapid antigen test. So how accurate are these tests?
Grab the swab.
They're the do-it-yourself COVID tests which could ease pressure on a stretched system. As a close contact of a COVID case, Tashi Gregg took one after feeling unwell a few days after getting back a negative PCR result.
That Wednesday I was not feeling great. I had a bit of a snotty nose. It was all a little bit suspicious.
She ended up taking 5 rapid antigens in a week. All came back positive.
On the government website it said it had a 90% accuracy, so it doesn't seem to be wrong.
It left her unsure about which one to trust, and she wants more definitive advice from health authorities. Experts say they're pretty accurate when it counts.
It's got to be very good at picking you up when you're most infectious during that really bad phase where you're likely to spread it to other people.
The accuracy or the efficacy might be slightly lower, but it allows you to take the test in a shorter period of time.
The Therapeutic Goods Administration has approved 15 rapid antigen tests for use here and has ranked them by sensitivity, and all must be at least 80% accurate. But one barrier to their widespread use has been a lack of national consistency.
I think we need a common approach across Australia with the rollout of the rapid antigen test.
As more states encourage their use, there's concern about low supply and how expensive they are. They can cost $15 per test.
We do understand that particularly those who are pensioners and others, we are looking at ways that we can provide concessional access for them, doing that in partnership with the states and territories.
And with cases continuing to rise, the Prime Minister is promising more tests are on their way. Penny Timms, ABC News.
And of course, the key factor there in that report was that there should be a consistent method throughout the country, a national approach. And that would have saved a lot of money, a lot of heartache and problems.
This is how Queenslanders lived 50 years ago. Breeze blocks and weatherboard, mesh fences and flower beds. A snapshot in time captured in black and white by photography duo Frank and Eunice Corley.
Frank would drive the streets in his Cadillac and basically drive around and hang out the window and take a photograph of every house on the street.
Eunice developed the photos in a van parked nearby, then a salesman would try to sell them to homeowners. 50 cents an image or 99 cents for a calendar.
Cameras weren't really in the homes as much at that particular time, and so it's quite a novelty to be able to get a photograph of your house.
More than 250,000 photos were taken, and 60,000 of them, the ones that didn't sell, are now kept in a climate-controlled collection at the State Library that can be accessed online at Corley Explorer. Residents, past and present, are encouraged to add their own pictures and stories. This is the house that George Brown built at Darra before it made way for the Ipswich motorway. This Coorparoo property still belongs to the woman who grew up there. Michael Stone found his Greenslopes home online and got in touch with descendants of the family who built it in 1915.
We got to understand that it had a pretty good history that we wanted to capture when we did our renovation.
From this to this, now this. Original glasswork and pressed metal ceilings remain, even some of the timber.
And we've got photos now that have them sitting in the same dining room that we sit in and watch our TVs.
But plenty of homes are still to be identified, although this one can probably be ticked off the list. It's next door to the place where I grew up.
Preserving a slice of Queensland history for generations to come. Sally Eels.
Isn't that wonderful? I remember when we came here first about 30 plus years back, the houses, were quite different. And today we have a lot of new migrants who come in who will never know what it used to be like here before. All the high-set homes with the timber slats on the side. You sat down underneath the houses on milk crates and had a get-together. All those things are gone and on past. The hardship and all that. The work that was put in those days to make Brisbane what it is today often are forgotten. That is one of the things that needs to be taught to all our newcomers here, our history and how today they enjoy a lot of things that are given and a lot of facilities that are made available through that hard work of the initial people and through those hard days. As they mentioned, but today, even for little things, people complain about this, complain about that, but they forget that the hardship, the toil, and whatever that went into making Brisbane what it is today in its current form. So it was not always like this. It wasn't all this modern, but people always would refer to those days as the good old days. Well, today, in finishing off, here's a good story. It means that, you cannot have any kind of barrier to your success. People who complain about things about, I cannot do this, what others can do. Here's the story to prove you otherwise, that anyone can do anything provided you've got the right mindset and you are persistent with it.
10 years after starting her degree, it's graduation day for Rachel High. After completing a foundation course, her passion for drama and film led her to enrol in a Bachelor of Arts.
Yeah, they inspire me. They all inspire me. That's where I met Jennifer Saunders. I grew up on the stage, basically, and I was thinking of that being my career.
That drive has never wavered, but university hasn't been an easy journey.
And when I first got into uni, it was daunting because I was nervous, a little bit scared, but because I had no idea what to expect from the university, frankly.
We found ourselves going through a process of helping her to translate, understand, and then she was able to write the assignments.
Academic language presented a major barrier, but social isolation on campus turned out to be an even bigger challenge.
That was the worst bit. I felt real down. That's when I thought, why am I here?
She'd had enough. She said, I don't like it there. I'm on my own. Nobody speaks to me. And young students are not there to look after a middle-aged person with Down syndrome, so why would they?
So which of these you've acted with before?
Rachel's family set up a buddy system before the university started offering a mentor. Professor Sally Robinson supervised Rachel's final research paper. She says universities have a long way to go when it comes to providing individual support to allow all people to pursue higher education.
People with sensory disability or people with physical disability are entitled to support for their learning at university. People with intellectual disability are not. We need to raise our expectations to assume that people with intellectual disability can succeed at university. Rachel shows us how possible that is.
And now I'm thinking I'm glad I stayed. So glad I stayed and glad I worked hard for it.
Rachel, hi.
The university says Rachel High is a trailblazer who made the system work for her.
Warm congratulations.
And a trailblazer, what a wonderful story. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing stopping you. Everyone can go out there and achieve whatever they want as long as you've got the desire and, you know, willing to put in the effort that it requires. Well, right now, it's time to get a message from our sponsors of this segment.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Asha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is the world. And don't forget that coming January, we will resume the weekly real estate updates with Usha Chandra, and of course the other shows such as the migration Kasafar and the travel updates with Tanvi Goyal. All those are planned to be resuming back from January. Well, right now it's time to say goodbye, but before we do that, here's some of the functions and events taking place. And ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you today. It's been wonderful having your company. Don't forget that tomorrow we have the morning show, but tomorrow is the 31st of December. Hey, the last day of this year. And of course, tomorrow will be the first anniversary of our Music Junction. And tomorrow night we have at 6 p.m. this year's Music Junction, the New Year's Eve presentation by Ajay Savi and featuring Neha Shah. It will be a wonderful program. Until then, it's goodbye from me.